voted to provide some assistance for a program that we certainly pray will include many and bless many lives and help folks get back on the road to living. Let's see, India. Daniel's not here tonight. That's okay. I'd rather have you anyway. Make more sense. But tonight we want to follow through with an action that we took just a couple of meetings ago in committing to the Enrich program. We presented them with the real meaning of big money. We got some big money. We committed to the Enrich program that as they try to acquire a building in which they can operate the program, and you can see more about the program if you would, but we committed that at a cost of $200,000 for the building, if they could raise half of it themselves, we would commit the city to provide the other half of $100,000 through some funds that we have designated for that purpose. So tonight, we want to present to the Enrich program, Daniel and India, Kirstine want to present the check for $100,000. Truly big money. And India, you can, whatever you'd like to say tonight, but we want to follow through with the commitment because they follow through with their part of the commitment. They follow through, so we're happy with that.
Okay. So we can get a picture of that.
Yes, indeed.
Stay right here. Okay.
We gotta get a couple more.
Thank you to the mayor and to the city commission, and also to the city manager for all of your hard work in just looking through. You know, we came and they offered for us to come and speak, and we shared with them our vision and our plan, and they did a lot of work in looking to see what funds would be able to be given to us. And, you know, our city did a lot of hard work also. $100,000 was raised in less than 2 months just from our city, and then the other $100,000 coming from the city of Richmond. I am thankful to live in this city. The taxpayers should be really happy that the people that they have here working for them, that they see that there's a problem, that people in active recovery deserve another chance, that they deserve a supportive work environment, and our tax dollars and our city employees and workers are doing really wonderful work, and we appreciate their support. Our goal is to be open by the end of this year. We are going to close next week, we hope. We should close next week. You know how $100,000 checks going through a bank goes. But our intention is to close next week on 110 South 2nd Street and get to work on renovating that building. We will be employing people in active recovery, people who may be suffering from homelessness, people who may be struggling with employment because of criminal histories. We will be employing people, supporting, training, loving people, and working really hard to get them back to be living. We're trying to help people who are already trying to start over. We want them back in our community, giving back to this community again in our workforce. And so we just appreciate your support, and I'm going to leave that big check up here until after, if that's okay. If you all have any questions or you want to know more about Enrich, I will hang around in the back because yes, thank you very much.
I wouldn't try to put that through the night depository.
Yeah. I did already go by the bank to talk about it with them this week. Thank you.
Thank you, India, you and Dan, and all of those who work with you for what you're doing for our community already. Thank you. The minutes of our last two meetings, the regular meeting held on January 10, workshop meeting held on January 17 are included in your packet. If you review those, please, may we have a motion to accept them as submitted.
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Goebel, is there any question, comment, or discussion about those minutes? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Ordinance 23-01, ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, amending the boundaries of the downtown Mill District. This is a second reading. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the city has recently created the Downtown Mill District by passage of Ordinance 20-03, and whereas the Board of Commissioners and the City Manager believe it to be in the best interest of the City of Richmond to amend the boundaries of the Mill District to match the boundaries of the newly created Entertainment Destination Center, EDC, so as to give clarity to the citizens and the downtown businesses. And whereas the Board of Commissioners envisions several possible future endeavors to enhance the historic downtown area, the use of the tax incremental financing area for future development, and the designation of the EDC within the meaning of Chapter 148 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, and the Board wishes to establish the Mill District within the downtown area for these and potentially other future uses. Now, therefore, be it ordained that there is hereby created for the potential purpose and the future uses described above, the area within downtown Richmond designated as the Mill District, the geographic boundaries to which are hereby amended as depicted in the map attached to this ordinance and here incorporated as those set forth in full. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its enactment following second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. This is ordinance 23-01. This is our second reading, so tonight we will vote. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move.
Commissioner Brewer,
Second.
Commissioner Newby, is there any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Ordinance 23-02, ordinance of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, amending the funds collected from the water meter surcharges to be allocated for stormwater projects. This, again, is a second reading. We will vote tonight. Mr. City Manager, please.
Whereas the City of Richmond wishes to receive a return on its investment in the utility system as stated in ordinance number 9220 and 10-02, and whereas the establishment of the water meter surcharge for every customer of the water system is deemed to be in the best interests of the citizens of Richmond, Kentucky, and whereas the city wishes to reallocate those funds from general fund to now fund stormwater projects, now therefore be ordained by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, that Section 1, a water meter surcharge in the amount of $2.10 shall be charged to customers for every water meter serviced by the Richmond Utilities Board. The surcharge shall not be deemed to be a sale and shall not be subject to school, sales business, or other taxes applicable to the sale of water. The Richmond Utilities Board shall receive an account for all water meter surcharges collected hereunder as provided by the law for public funds, and shall on a monthly basis transfer all funds so collected to Stormwater Project Fund of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, for the purposes of providing the city a return on its investment in the utility system. Section 2, the surcharge established herein shall be applied to all bills on or after 1 month from the passage. This is Section 3. This ordinance shall be effective February 1st, 2023, and upon its second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. We've heard the reading of ordinance 23-02. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
I'll second it.
Commissioner Brewer, is there any discussion?
Mayor, I just want
Yes,
to point
sir.
out that this isn't a new tax of any sort. We're just taking these funds from our general fund, reallocating them to a stormwater fund so we can support stormwater projects in our community.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Comment or question? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Goble,
Yes.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Ordinance 23-03, an ordinance of the City of Richmond, Kentucky declaring the city's intent to annex a tract of property into city limits and referring the annexation to the Richmond Planning and Zoning Commission for a zoning recommendation. This again is a second reading. We will vote tonight. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas UMA Investments, LLC, the owner of the property described below, has consented to the voluntary annexation into city limits of said tract, hereinafter the property. And whereas the property is contiguous to the city's boundaries and is urban in character, and whereas no part of the property proposed to be annexed is included within the boundary of another incorporated city, and whereas the City of Richmond is capable of providing city services to the property, and whereas the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond, Kentucky finds it to be in the public interest that the property be annexed into the city limits. Now, therefore, be it ordained as follows. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 81A of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, the City of Richmond, Kentucky does hereby express its intent to annex into the city limits those certain tracts of land, property more particularly described below. Total 96.66 acres, plus or minus, a certain tract of land located on the west side of Goggins Lane in Madison County, Richmond, Kentucky, and found on Deed Book 824, page number 185. This matter is hereby referred to the City of Richmond Planning and Zoning Commission for that body's recommendation as to the appropriate zoning classification. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon its adoption, following second reading, and publication in accordance with the provisions of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. This is ordinance 23-03. This is a second reading. May we have a motion, please? Bring to the floor. Discussion and approval.
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
I'll second.
Commissioner Brewer, is there any discussion?
Well, I'm not going to give my usual spiel about, traffic, public safety issues that we have out there already. I voted no on issues out there pertaining to these things coming. We keep dumping things in this area. And I understand, how, all these proposals may look sexy, but, at the end of the day, it's still extra traffic. Personally, I lived on Goggins for 12 years. And 2 years ago, I sold my home because it was too congested then. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Newby. Anyone else? Comment, question?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to come forward and make some comments once you all finish.
Hold that just a second. Anyone else here? Is that in order, Mr. Attorney, this evening?
It is. There has not been a hearing before the Planning and Zoning Board, so you are able to take
We may
comments
allow.
now.
All
Yes.
right, then. If there is no further comment here, yes, sir, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I'm Stuart Oles, and I represent the applicant in this case, UMA Investments. What we're asking you to do today, and the first thing I want to do is correct the acreage, and this is my fault, not Mr. Frazier's. When I initially filed the application, I filed it at 96.66, but Mr. Spencer's survey shows it to be 95.37. That survey was needed for the annex to comply with your annexation ordinance. So we do need to correct that, and I have filed an amended application to do that. What we're asking for is the annexation of this farm on Goggins Lane. It's the former Park Farm between Hickory Hills and Rose Hills. We're here asking initially for the annexation. Assuming that gets approved, we would then go to the Planning Commission, where we would ask for R1A zoning. That is part of the application that we've already submitted. Under your ordinance, that is your largest single-family residential lots. There are two classes of lots that would be smaller than that. So we're asking for your largest residential lots on this particular farm, and we already know that some part of this farm will not be usable because there's a creek that runs through the part of it. It'll be in a flood zone. We won't be able to use that. So primarily we'll be developing, assuming you approve, of course, the part of this farm that's up on top of the hill, if you're familiar with the farm itself. Okay. Before I go on about the project, I would like to talk just a little bit about the applicant itself. So UMA is a gentleman named Mike Patel and 3 partners. They own 4 businesses here in Richmond and Madison County, and Mr. Patel's wife operates the Adora Bells clothing store that's just around the corner from us. So they're ingrained here. In fact, Mr. Patel also owns the farm that is just around the curve from this farm, headed toward Barnes Mill, that was part of the prior Willentz farm. And he intends to make that his personal residence at some point in the near future. So he would be developing this farm in close proximity to where he intends to live, and a development that, again, if approved, he would see every day as he passes by. So he intends to do a quality development. I want to make sure you all understand that first. Second thing I'd like to do before I talk about this particular project is to talk just a minute about the things that you all should consider when me, anybody else that might be here tonight, are asking for these kind of things. So when a city or county decides it's going to control individual parties' use of land under the statutes, you're required to adopt a comprehensive plan that sets out what you want to accomplish. And then based upon that comprehensive plan, you adopt land use regulations. A city or county can do, based upon what it and its constituents want, they could either adopt a comprehensive plan and land use regulations that say, we like exactly what we are. And I'm not exactly familiar with it, but I understand that's kind of what Versailles has done. We like our farms. We want to be a rural agricultural community. We don't want industry. We don't want jobs. We don't want housing developments. Or you can do what you guys have done. You've adopted a comprehensive plan and land use regulations that say, and I'm going to quote from your comprehensive plan that I think was just adopted last year. Under the heading Increased Quality of Life, we want to increase home ownership rates while providing safe and affordable housing options for all of our residents. I know in the past at some of these meetings there's been some objection about multifamily development. We're not asking for any of that. We're asking for single-family development on the largest lots that your ordinance provides for. Also in that plan, it talks about advocating for sustainable growth. It says we want to encourage future growth where current and adequate infrastructure and amenities exist in order to limit the negative effects of urban sprawl. So we're asking to develop this. I'm going to suggest to you in an area that when Goggins Lane was reconstructed, it was anticipated all of which would eventually become part of the city and all of which it would become developed. We're not trying to create urban sprawl. We're filling in a gap between 2 developments that are already there. And you want to focus new water and sewer services and other infrastructure in areas appropriate for and prime for growth. Okay? So in your comprehensive plan and in your land use regulations, I believe you have suggested that exactly the project that we're bringing to you is the kind of thing you want to see. You want to have new industry. You want to have good jobs for your children and your grandchildren. And if you're going to have industry and jobs for them, you also want housing for them. Everyone knows the last few years how quickly a home is sold when it gets on the market. So if you want housing for your children and your grandchildren, these are the kind of developments that we have to do here. Okay. Now, this particular project, 95 acres, Goggins Lane, the largest single-family lots that your ordinance allows. I'm going to suggest to you that Goggins Lane is one of the better roads in the city of Richmond. Okay. When it was reconstructed several years ago, turn lane was put down the middle of it. Anybody who's turned left into a development can go into that turn lane. It doesn't hold up traffic that's coming by. It's wider than Lancaster Avenue. It's wider than West Main Street. It's wider than East Main Street. It's wider than many of the roads that are in our city. Again, I suggest to you that when it was reconstructed, it was constructed with the idea that more development would occur on that road. All right? As it relates to traffic, I know Mr. Moody has indicated that he has some concerns about that, and I anticipated those. So what I did was ask Stuart Spencer to put together some information about traffic, and these came directly from the Department of Transportation's website. And I had Ms. Cassidy email everybody a little diagram and things that looks like this. So according to the Department of Transportation, Goggins Lane has 6,700 cars. West Main has 9,800. Big Hill Avenue has 9,600. Lancaster Avenue has double the amount of Goggins, 13,500. Irvin Road, 21,000. Berea Road, 22,000. So there are a lot of roads here in the city that manage to accomplish handling double the amount of traffic that Goggins Lane currently has. All right? I'm gonna give you an example about that. I live on Barnes Mill between the bypass and the university. Everybody coming down the bypass who wants to either come downtown or get to the university cuts through there. So also there's Stonewall, Stonegate, Stocker Place, all the development that was originally called Greenway back in the 50s and 60s, which is Magnolia and all of those streets that connect with Barnes Mill between those two roads. And it's a small two-lane road, not nearly the road that Goggins Lane is, and yet it manages to handle all that traffic. If I get to the light at Lancaster at exactly 7:45 in the morning, when everybody is trying to get to EKU, I may be backed up by a light or two. But within a light and no worse than two, I'm through there. So any other time of day, I go through there without any problem. And you've got the apartments that are right there on the corner. You've got the nursing homes and the apartments that are down at the end of Magnolia. You've got all those developments, all of which funnel onto that one road. If that one road can handle the traffic it handles, Goggins Lane, given what it is, and given all the other access points it has, can handle the traffic it's got and some additional development. Okay? I can go from Goggins Lane into Richmond Center without ever getting out on another road. And I can shop, go to the grocery store, go to restaurants, go to the gas station, and do all that without ever getting on another roadway. I can go out to Barnesville and go down the bypass. I can go back to Tates Creek or across Tates Creek and down Goggins and go out north to Lexington. I can go to Tates Creek and come down to Westover and go out to West Main and go to Lexington or back into Richmond. There are 3 or 4 different possible routes if I come Tates Creek and I'm going to come into town that I've got. All the traffic that comes that way doesn't have to get exactly at the light at Tates Creek and West Main Street. All right? And if it does, that light will handle it. You may have to sit there a light or two if you're there at a particularly busy time of day, but that light will handle it, just like the one at Barnes Mill and Lancaster Road handles it. Okay? I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'm going to let Mr. Spencer come up and talk a little bit more about traffic, and he pulled these directly from the Department of Transportation's website. I'm also going to let him talk a little bit about drainage and collection of that and et cetera, because I would anticipate that at somewhere this evening we're going to have some objection about that, and I'm going to let him tell how he's working, helping putting together the engineering and the surveying work if this development ultimately gets approved. I'm going to let him talk about how